Welcome friends, I am so glad that you decided to join us for our church-wide sermon series this year. Since I'm the one that you're watching on the video, you might notice it's a little bit different. So what we're doing this year is actually looking at a book. As I was looking for topics for the church-wide sermon series, this book caught my eye. Moving Forward, 6 Steps to Forgiving Yourself and Breaking Free from Your Past. The notion of forgiving yourself, that really caught my eye. And I thought to myself, that's not anything I don't think I've ever even preached on, or taught a Bible study on, or even heard a sermon on. That's powerful. And so I bought the book, and one of the things that captivated me from the very beginning was the author's personal journey. For 2 reasons. First of all, Everett is a lifelong researcher in the area of forgiveness. What was even more captivating about him was what happened in his personal life. From the opening chapters of this story, he went through some tremendous personal loss. His elderly mother had an intruder break into her home, assault her, and murder her. As you can imagine, that entire process was emotionally and relationally challenging for their entire family. Everett had to take what he learned through years of research and apply it in a way and at a depth he had not had to before in the terms of forgiveness. As a foundation to understand all of this, he gives us some lessons and ideas that are images that help us to work through some of the opening steps about all of this. And so one of the things that he tells and gives us information about in the opening chapters of the book is how we as humans operate. He says that as we live our lives and have experiences, interactions with people and the world around us, our brains naturally take events, memories, and experiences and begin to put them together in a collage. From our earliest childhood, it takes those bits, like you would in kindergarten with a collage, with bits of string and paper clips and paper, and it puts them all together on a piece of construction paper, sometimes intentionally, sometimes randomly, and creates a picture. There are things that happen in our childhood that if we were to go back and watch videos of our childhood, we would say, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. Not only do they fade, but as we just indicated, they actually drop off the picture altogether. And some of them that we thought made sense as a child, as adults, we have a different image and perception of them. Our picture and our perspective changes over time. And so Everett says that as we mature, we go back to that collage of our lives, and the story of it begins to be reshaped. To make sense of it from an adult perspective often actually means rearranging some of the elements, rethinking them, processing them in a different way with new tools, information, and perspective. As a result of that, when we look back on our lives, from our childhood through our present, we will find places where we did things, participated in things that we wish we hadn't, that will require self-forgiveness. In fact, he says that this is such a common theme in the human existence that it's become a dominant image in movies, in literature, in plays, and in music. So, for example, if you've ever seen any of the following, this theme is present. Beauty and the Beast, Crash, Dead Men Walking. Maybe more popularly, It's a Wonderful Life, Scrooge, or Shrek. Popular movies like Shawshank Redemption, Sixth Sense, and plays like Les Mis, and literature like Time to Kill and Sophie's Choice. All of those, Everett says, have embedded within them themes of characters who wrestle with both redemption, forgiveness, and self-forgiveness. Because, as adults, we come to a different awareness of our lives, we haven't always been taught to reflect upon those things. Many of us were taught to ask for forgiveness. Some of us were taught to say we're sorry. Some of us were taught to ask for God's forgiveness, another important step. But many of us probably weren't taught what it means to forgive ourselves. Everett says that that journey begins in childhood in a way that we're unequipped to handle and continues into adulthood. In other words, there's probably a list of things. And that those things sometimes keep us from God, either consciously or unconsciously. Because within them is a self-condemnation and a shame that we have not really worked through, that affects both our own self-image, but our relationship with God and others. And he also tells us in this book that there's a freedom, an opportunity, a healing, a way out that many of us have not yet discovered, taken, or experienced. But if it's there for us, maybe we should do that. Everett also says, and this really made me stop in my tracks, that most of us can't do this alone. Not only does it take help from God, but it also takes help from others. And he explains that in the process. In other words, it's something that we probably need to think about in a new way. Forgiveness and self-forgiveness are a decision to be healthy. And we have the choice to make those decisions. And they need to be carefully decided. And so as we think through this, I have a list of questions that I want you to reflect upon today. I encourage you as we walk through this study to do the readings. They will help you to come better prepared to talk through both the content of the book, the biblical content that Tim Farrell has laid out for us in the study itself with daily readings, but also what's happening inside of us. So I want to ask you several questions and give you an assignment. The first question is this: do you think Jesus has asked you to forgive yourself? I'm sure that you've heard taught before that you need to forgive others and that you need to ask for God's forgiveness. But do you think that Jesus asks of you that you should forgive yourself? Second of all, if he forgives you, why would he ask you to hold on to the things that we sometimes hold on to? Thirdly, what's a simple thing as a starting place in this whole journey that maybe happened recently that you might need to forgive yourself for? In other words, it could be as simple as the wrong words spoken sarcastically or thoughtlessly, or cutting somebody off in traffic. A starting place like that might get you toward the deeper things that you need to think about. Fourth, are you ready to think about what it might mean to forgive yourself? In other words, are you prepared to take the journey toward health and wholeness that this study lays in front of us? All of those things are great reflection thoughts and fodder for discussion beyond what you brought with you as you read this book and your own experiences as you sorted through it. As you leave this, I'd encourage you to also take time to make a list. Make a list of things that you think you might still need to forgive yourself for. That can start with the things that just pop into your head, as we all have. And the more you think and pray about it, the deeper and maybe the longer your list will become. It gives you an opportunity to say, here's what I can live this out. Here's where I can get a different kind of freedom. Now, I want you to make sure that you've separated and distinguished between actual self-forgiveness and a time where things faded and it's not pressing in on you the way that it used to. Having things hide in your past that you really haven't dealt with but that don't hurt as much is not the same as having health. This is a gift that God's offered to us. So I hope that in the coming weeks, you not only read this book, but that you think about the Bible readings, that you participate in the study, and that you explore this gift that God has given to us in offering us self-forgiveness. Have a great time as you do this together. God bless you.